I'm Margaret Kerrigan, and this is Art Market Minute from ArtNet Pro. For this special bonus episode, my colleague Min Chen joins me for a crash course on the red-hot animation art market. Just a reminder that Art Market Minute will return in full from its summer break on September 7th. But make sure to hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever else you're listening so that you're catching all of our bonus episodes with very special guests until then. Min is ArtNet's very own culture editor and our in-house expert on collectibles and pop culture. She runs a monthly feature on the site called Deep Cuts, which offers a rundown of the biggest news in the collectibles market, which by all accounts seems to be booming right now. Today, she's going to share what's behind the soaring prices we've seen for animation art. Welcome, Min.
Great to be here.
So let's start with the basics, especially for listeners who have never bought a cell in their life. So that's people like me who had to ask you what a cell even was. What actually counts as animation art?
So essentially, animation art refers to the visual material that goes to the making of an animated film or series. Most often, you'll see cells, which are short for celluloids, and they are transparent sheets that are hand-painted with characters and then photographed over painted backgrounds to create each frame. And collectors actually also seek out those background paintings themselves, as well as storyboards, concept artworks, and original sketches.
That's super helpful, especially for me. You noted in your monthly collectibles roundup, the deep cuts, that a lot of auction houses and sales platforms are seeing really big yields in this kind of animation art lately. Who and what do you think is driving those sales?
So one recent example we can look at is Prop Store's first standalone sale of animation artifacts, and it was led by a cell from The Simpsons. It's from one of the series' earliest seasons, when cells were still hand-painted, so it's extremely rare, and it's billed as museum-grade material. That cell went on to fetch more than $33,000, and it's now the most valuable Simpsons production artwork to sell at auction, which is notable because historically, who has cornered the market on animation art has been Disney. Disney is incredibly popular. Everyone loves their animated films, and Disney collectibles are, in a way, their own collecting category. We have Heritage Auctions, which hosts an annual sale of Disney animation art. Last year, they brought in $5 million. But we're also seeing other animation forms and franchises that are really catching up. Pokemon obviously does huge numbers. We had a Pikachu illustrated card that sold for more than 16 million in February, which is a world record for a trading card. And earlier this year, Christie's held its first anime auction in New York, where many of the lots just blew past their estimates.
That's a lot of money. What kind of prices were we seeing in the Christie sale? Because I assume not everything is going for, $16 million.
Unfortunately not, but the Christie sale did have many highlights. The top anime lot at the sale was a Sailor Moon drawing by Ito Ikoku, which sold for more than $88,000. That's 18 times its low estimate. There was also an animation cell from Studio Ghibli's Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, and that realized more than $12,000, which is tripling its high estimate. This demand is really driven a lot by passion and nostalgia. When I spoke to Russell Singler of Prop Store, he told me that one of his first animation art purchases was a cell of Baloo from The Jungle Book, and he bought it simply because he just loved the film so much. And the collectors of animation art really are just, above all, fans.
I do think it's really interesting that this is, something that's so driven by fandom at its core. Are we watching Gen X and millennials become the next big collectors, but it's just for cartoons instead of canvases?
I think so. A lot of these fans have really just kind of aged into collecting, and you can really trace it in the artifacts coming to the market. You have newer properties like Monsters, Inc. or Spirited Away that are becoming more popular as fans grow up and mature into collectors. And what's remarkable to me as well is the journey that these artifacts have taken. They're essentially byproducts of film and animation production, and historically, they're just tossed aside and dumped after a production wraps. But now they've become so highly valued, and that's driven a lot by, the appetite and appreciation of fans.
So I remember thinking back to what you wrote about the Prop Store sale, that we're moving into a period where, things like Simpsons artifacts are almost museum material. And it sounds like what you're kind of describing with this kind of fandom that's come up around it. Do you think that's just good marketing, or do you think that animation art is really heading towards genuine institutional legitimacy and that the market is only just a part of that?
I think that's already happening, especially as animation art becomes more digitized. Handmade animation material is going to become more treasured. They're really relics from an earlier age, and they reveal the evolution of the medium itself. The Simpsons cell that Prop Store just sold is just one example. They don't make them like this anymore. Institutions are definitely paying attention. You have museums like the Met and the Museum of Moving Image in New York. They collect animation cells, and there are a bunch of specialized anime museums in Japan. Right now, as we're speaking, the Academy Museum in Los Angeles is hosting a Studio Ghibli exhibition, and the MoMA in New York is going to open a show, exploring a century of pre-digital animation. So I actually think that the market is catching up to something that museums have already understood for years, which is that animation is not just about entertainment, but it's an art form that's worth preserving.
I actually think that's often the way with art too. Usually the market is catching up to the museums. So this has been very eye-opening. Thank you so much for sharing your insights on this. It's been a delight to have you on the pod.
Thank you, Margaret.
You can read deep cuts and all of Min's reporting on news.artnet.com. Art Market Minute is produced by Sonia Manalili and me, Margaret Kerrigan. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.